Jesus was a kingdom announcer. At the heart of his message was a proclamation that the kingdom or reign of God is at hand. For people who were and are tired of corrupt and oppressive kings and emperors, this was and is good news. No more corrupt governments run by and for the very rich and powerful. When God reigns, when God becomes the king or emperor, there will be justice for all. When and where God reigns, Jesus announced, the first will be last, and the last will be first. Remember back in grade school when the cool kids often picked on, laughed at, and bullied some kid who was different in some way? That bullying gave them a strong sense of belonging, of community, and it made them feel superior. Most of us didn't belong to the cool group, and we may not have liked the bullying. Perhaps we felt bad for the kid who was being picked on, but we thought to ourselves, phew, at least they're not picking on me. As long as they pick on him, I'm safe. That kid who got bullied, she or he was our scapegoat. Well, along comes Jesus, and he makes a startling decision. He chooses to become the scapegoat, the victim. He says, whatever you do to the least, you do to me. So whenever the cool kids, the powerful and rich, whenever they bully someone, they are bullying the divine one, Jesus, the Son of God. And when the first are made last, and the last are made first, the scapegoat victims will be the cool kids. And they won't need to bully anyone else to feel good about themselves or to feel united. Here's a parable. The kingdom of God is like a landowner who went out at dawn to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing to pay them the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. Going out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You too can go to my vineyard, and I will give you what is just." So they went off. He went out around noon and around 3 o'clock, and did likewise. Going out to the marketplace at about 5 o'clock, he found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" They answered, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You too go work in my vineyard." When it was evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Summon the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and ending with the first." When those who had been hired at 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage as if they had worked a full day. So when the workers who had been hired first came, they thought that they would receive more than a full day's pay, but each of them also got the usual wage. And on receiving it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last ones have worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who bore the day's burden and the heat." The vineyard owner said to one of them in reply, "My friend, I am not cheating you. Didn't you agree to work all day for the usual daily wage? Take what is yours and go. So what if I wish to give this last one the same as you? Am I not free to do as I wish with my own money? Are you envious because I am generous?" So, is Jesus giving instructions here on how to run a business? Is he suggesting that a farmer or any other employer should pay employees this way, giving the one who works for only 1 hour the same pay as the one who worked a full 8-hour day? I don't think so. Something else is going on here. The people in the story being recruited to work in the vineyard would have been poor people. During harvest season, people who didn't own any land and who were looking for work just to feed themselves and their families would go to the village marketplace in the hope of being employed for a day or two. The usual wage referred to in the parable was a small amount, just enough to meet their needs for a day, a living wage, but just barely. At the end of the day, the owner tells his manager to pay everyone the same amount, a full day's wage. When the people who worked all day saw those hired last get a full day's pay, they got a little excited. They figured, if the owner is paying those people who worked only 1 hour a full day's pay, then we're going to get 8 times as much because we worked a full 8 hours. Makes sense. But no, everyone gets the same 1 day's living wage, enough to feed themselves and their families. Naturally, those who had worked all day began to complain. Wouldn't you? The point here is that the vineyard owner, God, is kind and generous and doesn't want to see anyone do without. He is filled with mercy and compassion, especially for the least, and does not want to see anyone suffer, anyone go hungry. Those hired first got what they bargained for. They have enough for the day for themselves and their families. But they resent the owner's generosity to the least. In other words, like the older brother in the parable of the prodigal son, who cannot understand why his father would welcome back his wasteful son, these workers who are hired early in the day think they are better and entitled to more than the others. But God is merciful, forgiving, and loving past all human understanding, Jesus says. And if you consider yourself a daughter or son of God, you should stop judging and become more like your Father in your own everyday lives. Perhaps you could celebrate God's goodness and stop resenting it. If you think you are better, if you think God owes you more, if you think you are one of the cool kids, you might be in for a surprise. Remember, whatever we say about, think about, and do to the least among us, we say and think about Jesus, and we do to Jesus. Or in the words of the letter of John, whoever does not love a brother or sister whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. So, this is not a parable about how to run a farm or any kind of business. It's a parable about the God whose kingdom has arrived, a God who loves with an unconditional, mad, and crazy love. And it is a challenge to be that Father's true daughter or son. P.S. Obviously, God would make a lousy capitalist.